Hey, you guys, welcome back to Sovereign and Strong, How to See Beauty in Chaos, Shift Your Consciousness, and Create Peace Within. I'm Claretha Yeager, your host, and I'm so happy to introduce our wonderful guest today, Kathrin Wyss. Originally from Switzerland, Kathrin worked as an executive coach, change agent, and leadership trainer for 15 years. She began her professional career as a pharmacist and has spent time in the healthcare industry and Swiss government. And following a life transition in 2004, she remembered her connection with the invisible world and ancestors. She spent the following years training in NLP, shamanism, holistic therapies, and Zen meditation. And in 2015, she moved to the US to better live her spiritual life and currently resides in California, where she works on her spiritual projects as well as coaching business leaders and organizations in realignment with their vision and creating a connected culture. She published a book, Dare to Trust: Spirits at Work, where she recounts her spiritual awakening and shares the messages she's received with her guides and spirits. So thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, thank you.
Yeah, so you have such a wonderful intersection of expertise when it comes to supporting people to help them make changes in their lives. And it's definitely a time of change and uncertainty for many people right now. And a lot of people right now are experiencing issues with trust, whether to trust the news, whether to trust themselves, et cetera, et cetera. And you are like well-versed in talking about trust. Can you talk a little bit about how trust can be different for different areas of your life?
Wow, thank you, Claretha. Such an interesting question and an honor for me to be here today. Trust. A lot of people think trust is given until they feel it's not there anymore. And then it's the question how it is established. Is it something that I have to invest in or something that I do receive? And for me, that has most to do of how do you trust in the first place yourself, and I make that little movement here because it's an ever evolving part of who I am and who I am in relation to the other party with whom or with what I want to have trust in. Is it my party regarding healthcare advice? And I definitely have an opinion as that as a pharmacist and as a healer. Is it regarding the government? Is it regarding my relationship? Or is it regarding with the relationship with myself? And for me, trust starts with my own inner understanding of who I am, or possibly what kind of identity box I want to be in.
Yeah. And so many of these conversations that we're having, it really is the inner work and a job that's from the inside out that affects all of the relationships, whether it's with one-to-one with a person or one-to-many with like a community, right?
Yes, and the title of the book that you referenced, it's Dare to Trust, and a lot of people are asking me, is that a UFO here, or what kind of visual do I have chosen? It's a picture of a bird that normally flies that goes head into the water. And a bird needs a lot of trust to go from the air into the water when it's an airborne bird and not a water bird. And how can they go out again? And what do you do if you are in a situation that is so totally different than what you are equipped to, known to, trained to work? And in those situation of uncertainty that we are, of course, currently in, we are in environments home offices, children at home, not having a job, having way more work, not being able to do the work as I'm trained to, that gives so much uncertainty that I need to be able to grab something to be able to have a trustworthy environment, which then I considered as a stable sanctuary where I can express myself. And while we don't have that, we have so many changes in circumstances at the very moment that a lot of people are deprived of that stability. No matter what, if then even a spiritual awakening or kind of like a path that goes into getting rid of a lot of those stable points because you're embarking on a different journey, that in itself is also challenging. So imagine if someone at the very moment is going through a path of emergence into something else with an outside that is not what it was and an inside that is not what it was.
Yeah, that's a great, thank you for explaining the picture on your book. And I think it illustrates it perfectly. We are truly in a different environment, changing daily. And yeah, it's learning how to navigate that.
I used that, the book was, I got the task from spirits to write that book in 2017, and when it came into what's the cover, I got reminded of a picture that I used on Facebook as a profile picture that I used in 2008 in the time of where I was in a turmoil, and I really felt I was head over heels in an environment that I didn't know. And I used that head over heel of a bird to describe that I was lost in the sea of not knowing. So it was only logic for me to use that picture as kind of like the messenger of how I felt when I needed to trust most. Trust in spirits or trust in myself that what I got as messages are true.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's powerful. I think a lot of people can resonate with that. Yeah. And, you know, within this environment that we're in, we're seeing a lot of division right now. It's pretty clear that that is the message and the narrative that's being presented to us everywhere, whether it's white versus black, whether it's right versus left, right versus wrong. There's so many labels out there. And I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on labels in relation to our personal identity?
Yeah, it's you know, as a business consultant, and especially when I work with entrepreneurs, it's kind of like, how do you want to put yourself? And just yesterday, curiously enough, I talked with an executive who says, I want to change how I present myself on LinkedIn. At the moment, it was just a job title. I said, so what kind of metaphor could you use for you? What kind of, he was like, where are you going here? I said, like, who is the you that fulfills a job title? Because the job title is not you. The job title is a box in an organigram in a hierarchical structure, but that's not you. Who is the you that fulfills that job title? And for those of us who are have your own company like you and I, or are self-employed, we need to create business cards, you know. So what are visuals? And so I have my Swiss business card, you know, and I used the symbol 8 for that. It's a Swiss German name called Beachtung, which means paying attention and being aware of, and the 8 as a symbol for harmony and two countries. So I gave myself in 2004 this kind of like identity box, and the more and more I evolved, it came clear that the tradition of shamanism is what gives people a framework to relate to of how I do work when I do work with spirits. You know, I could say I put myself into the box of I'm a medium, or I put myself in the box of, sorry to say box, but acupuncturist, and you're so much more than that. Or I put myself in the box of I'm an author, or I put myself in a box. I'm a writer, by the way, which is not the same, a writer and an author and all those kind of things. So where is my box?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a funny story to share regarding my business shaman box. So the name came with a big vision in 2014, and I started to use the word, and I created a logo, which is a visual that was given to me earlier, and I felt very congruent with it, but I was not having any business cards. So in 2018, I participated in the Wisdom 2.0 conference here in San Francisco. And Spirit said, you know what, when you're going there, you have to go there as business shaman, not as executive coach. I was like, okay, I need to go in a different box. And they said, and you shall create a business card. And I'm like, uh-huh. So I was guided to create a business card. And I said, they are taking me because I get visions and I get feelings, or I do things intuitively. And at the end, I look at it, I'm like, whoa, that kind of like cool. So they tasked me in making a business card, which is rectangular, not like landscape. And it has this on the front and it has this on the back.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful.
Is that you? Is that a photo?
That's me. That's me merged with a tree. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah, magical.
So
thank you.
I was kind of like, so I go to that Wisdom 2.0 conference, and I'm only allowed to introduce myself. They said, yeah. So I was going that, and it was really a struggle to tell everyone just that I'm a business shaman. So I needed to limit myself in just saying one thing rather than all the million things that I am. And it was a really good test. Can I survive in that authentic identity of being a business shaman? Of course, I'm also an executive coach. Of course, I'm also a daughter. Of course, I'm also a sister. Of course, I'm also a best friend. But can I wholeheartedly say I'm this, and I don't have any other need to say, but I also do this, 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 this. It's kind of like a test of congruency.
Yeah. I think I thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people have to justify the different parts of themselves. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. And we sometimes try to say, I do this, and by the way, I also do that and that and that and that. Or I am this, and by the way, I'm also that and that and that, as if that one thing would not be wholeheartedly enough in that very moment, in that very interaction. And that has to do with your own trust in your own intuition of what you say who you are or what you are doing for work, and that this is enough. We sometimes want to be too much, and then people cannot relate to us, or we cannot relate to ourselves in the most simplistic and wholehearted way of I am, full stop.
I am. That one resonates really powerfully. I think a lot of people can identify with that. And I know I used to have an issue with getting, certifications to add more things add more labels to help me fulfill that, to make me feel whole. And it's only in the last year, 2 years that I felt more wholehearted in who I am and not needing that outward, more of that outward recognition of that. And they teach that in the culture here, especially in America. I mean, I don't know about Switzerland, but it's that continuing drive to just more and more and more, become more and more and more, when it's really not necessary.
It's interesting. Becoming more and more, I can wholeheartedly subscribe, yet I don't get it with titles.
Yeah, the expansion from the inside, not the other way around.
Yeah. When I was on my path, I knew at age of 10 that I want to be a pharmacist. So I embarked on that trade. My parents said, you need to go to university. And I said, like, okay, what does it need? They said, need to be a little bit better in school. I said, how much little better? And then I I just made it. And then I was it. And I was like, who, what I'm doing next? And I just followed my nose up until the point where I didn't know anymore why I was doing things. So I got a little bit in a health crisis, and retrospectively, one could say I got into a burnout because I just didn't know anymore what was my North Star. So I reassembled myself. I unpacked things that I stopped doing. As an innate healer, I got distracted on my path, so I re-embarked on another path, or on my original path, which now that I'm a little bit further ahead of the journey, I can see what I have done. But there, it just felt like a little ship in a stormy sea. Some days a little bit less storm, but most of the days in heavy storms. That's where also the picture to the water comes. So guiding through that, how can you know where your North Star is if the sky is always cloudy? Is difficult. And then there are a lot of people that are try to give you some stepping stones, and if you do this, and if you do that, and if you do this, and if you do that. What was for me was, if someone is telling me I should or have to do things, and if I don't have the inner call for doing it, it most likely will not serve my path overall. But sometimes something comes along and it simply doesn't go away. I started meditating with Zen in 2004, but until I could say I'm a scholar of it, it was 2011. My first book on shamanism, I saw in 2004, until I embarked on studying shamanism in a more consolidated framework. It was only as of 2014. But there were some things that never went away on my path. They just were persistent. And those are the ones that haven't cried the biggest, that haven't said should and have to. There were things that just instantly crossed my path, which enriched it most. And I am a mosaic of many things, a mosaic of many wisdoms that have been shared with me. And everything that I have done on my path, how quirky it could be, how unrelated it can be, where my friends were saying, okay, I can tell you, my mosaic is a wonderful mosaic of the quirky healer that I am, that has a master degree in natural science, that is a top executive of management, that is a shamanic healer, that is an intuitive, and that is also a very good friend and a wholehearted being, and can shut up for days. I'm all that. And ultimately, on an archetypal, I say I'm a healer, and my healer finds for the different audience different boxes. Business shaman, executive coach, author, it doesn't matter. The journey is never straight, honestly. Once you embark on the journey to I am,
That's the truth.
it's bumpy. And the more you are coming to yourself, the more other people will say, but you used to be. And that's true. I used to be. And I'm not anymore. One of my key elements is the snake, you know. A snake is a wonderful metaphor of transition. It always stays the snake, but it always sheds the skin. And there is always the most vulnerable version of when a snake sheds the skin, when the skin goes over her eyes. There is a very moment where the snake doesn't see and her eyelids are totally not what they used to be. So there are a few hours during the shedding of the skin where she could die. So when we are growing towards who we are, towards the wholeheartedly I am full stop, I will have most scared moment of where I will have to die. In the shamanic tradition, we say a shaman has to die a lot of deaths. Those are the so-called initiation moments. It's what you're doing with those moments and who are your allies that can secure you. It's okay. The butterfly, when it comes out, cannot yet fly. It needs first to dry the wings. But if you put the hair dryer and try to help a butterfly, it will die because it takes time. I think that's where the power of such a summit as you are doing it here, Claretha, is one of those people that are listening will listening to one of those 21 or 22 people that you're interviewing and will say, wow, that's a guiding, that's a person that I can trust, that if I am in those moments of hardship, of not knowing, I can listen to that interview again, or I can read a book, or I can go on their websites, whatever it is, or get the gifts that they offer to help me knowing I am is good enough.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Powerful. The way, the words that, just how you say it. Thank you for that. I know that will resonate. It resonated with me for sure. And I know it will resonate with others.
And I do have to say, I'm never alone. There are always spirits talking with me and through me. So
yeah.
Thanks to everyone who came and showed up here.
Yes, absolutely. Since you were talking about that journey, when we had spoken previously, you had mentioned what you call the strenuous path.
Yeah.
And that not everything is just love and light all the time. Can you talk about what you mean by strenuous path?
Certainly when I embarked on the more logical part of my journey by studying neuro-linguistic programming, and I got into presuppositions of there are always a positive intent behind actions, or the map is not the territory, which means my plan doesn't mean how the journey is going. I felt a lot of my pillars of how I have constructed my world got away. And there was one saying of a person that said, Kathrin, you're very black and white. You have to learn that there are 99 shades of gray in between. And I was like, whoa, no, it's either black or white. Because I couldn't deal with anything in between. So I first needed to get myself away from the amount of structure I needed. There was a time there I didn't have a job. And I met at a reunion of my pharmacist colleagues, and they said, so where do you work? Oh, I don't work. Oh, then you have children. I said, no, I don't have children. So you must be married. I said, no. So 3 things I needed to say 3 times no, and then I was not a good conversation partner because I overloaded the system of the others. But I also overloaded the system of myself. Who am I if I don't have a job, I don't have children, I don't have a husband, I don't have a duty, I don't have whatever. That was very, very strenuous for the logical part of me. So let's talk to the other part. In the journey of my journey of spiritual awakening, of my journey of listening to what's within myself to come to stillness, I opened a whole box of emotions that I was unprepared to wholeheartedly feel pain and not knowing what to do with it, not having people to talk to, being at one time at the end, and you hear it in my voice, I'm getting emotional, of utter overwhelm of why am I here? can someone, for God's sake, tell me something that I could grab in my vast sea of not knowing, of feeling? At one time point, I felt the pain of the world. I was going to an aquarium in Seattle, and I looked at the fishes, and I was having the impression I felt the pain of the fishes in the aquarium. And at one point of me says, you're insane, you're overly emotional, you're a drama queen, all those things. But the point is, I felt something, and I felt utterly overwhelmed. I felt in tears. And I only learned later on that as a part of going into a spiritual awakening, starting to be able to converse with spirits, like one thing that I'm able to do, which, by the way, everyone has the ability to. It's a path to learn and to unveil and to unlearn and go back to your own magic. That you will be more receptive to what's in the world, that you will feel more, that you will sense more, that you will see more. And with all that more, with not having yet a framework, that was so, so difficult. And not having a lot of people to talk to that understood, because I came from such a business world. I was a top executive while I was doing all that. I was having a 9-to-5 job, which was, by the way, not a 9-to-5, but kind of like 60-hour a day and plus job. And I was going through that. That was utterly difficult. I guess that's also a reason why now I have the ability to accompanying business and spiritual awakening and healing and whatever, because I have done most of it. So there are bumps. And if someone just tells you, yes, there are bumps. Yes, there are places of not knowing. And by the way, that's part of the journey. If it's a smooth ride, it's too much. I always tell my change management people, if you don't have 1 or 2 people that are utterly against what you want to do, you are not doing the right thing. Because only when you hit resistance, you know you touch the core. The same with your own resistance. Not knowing, not wanting to do it. If you're never ever reach that point, you are not yet on the truest journey of getting to I am.
Thank you. Powerful. Yeah, I love what you just said. Only when you hit resistance is when you get to the core. Thank you. So what is one thing that you would share with the viewers to help them, a recommendation to help them navigate their current situation with that inner trust or inner strength?
If there is something in their whatever spirituality or religion concept that they have, that they can have faith into,
Mm-hmm.
if they have something within, a key strength, a key ability that they can trust and have faith that will always function, those are really good steps to hold on to. If you have a key dream and if you have a key vision, that can be your North Star, and you know that, as the weather metaphor, there are sometimes cloudy days, but your dream is still there. So if there is one point of reference that can be your anchor from within, through your faith or through your clear vision, that gives you a point of reference, which is not giving you a cage, but a point of reference where you can anchor. And as a boat, if the sea is stormy, the anchor is not preventing you from swinging around, but it's preventing you from not getting too far away from where you originally wanted to be. And there are many people around in the different traditions. Is it spiritual traditions? Is it healing traditions? Is it philosophy traditions that can help you understand that, yes, we have our dark nights of the souls And sometimes you just need to someone that witnesses it with you, that doesn't want to change anything with it, and that gives you the time. Like in all the traditions, there was a lot of ritualizations around the time of grieving. We lost a lot of those wonderful traditions. So there are certain parts of you establishing a ritual for yourself. It can be a daily ritual and a weekly ritual or a monthly ritual, that you stick to it no matter what, how stormy your sea is, that is representing that anchor for you. I think that would be wonderful. You know, I do with my community, I offer a monthly drum circle for those people who do shamanic journeyings, and at least they say at least once a month I do a journey because I do it with you. It's a complimentary offer, you know. So there are a few things that you can first of all know. Where is your stab to hold on, or your point of reference, and how do you want to honor it with a ritual? I guess that would be some of the points I would love to share.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I like the metaphors that you're using with having that North Star and then being a boat on the water. You know, sometimes it's clear sailing and other times not so much, but having that anchor is really important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap today, I know that you have an amazing gift for the audience, which is something that hasn't been published yet, correct?
Yeah, it's three messages, channeled messages. One is about inner strength, one is about love, and one is about care or self-care that Spirit gave me through, and I made that excerpt for people to download free of charge. And I also offer a one-time discount of 15% to any of my offerings per person. So yeah, I think you will provide a link where people can leave their contact details to claim the gift and and work with it.
Yeah, they'll be able to click on a link to find that. So thank you.
Yeah, for me, it's really about daring to trust. There is a daring intake because it needs courage, and the trust is something that is so soft. So it's kind of like it's always those polarities, you know. Sometimes we need to be very decisive to rely on something very fluffy as faith or a trust, or you know, it is what it is.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your voice. And just your light with all of us here today. Really appreciate
Thank you for the opportunity and creating such a wonderful opportunity for many of us to share and for many, many more to listen.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's needed right now, right? This is the time. This is why we're here, right?
That's why we are here. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you to the audience. So click on that link to get her free gift. And if you want to hit reply and let me know what resonated with you today most in this interview, I would love to hear from you. And keep staying tuned for more wonderful interviews to help you be sovereign and strong.